been, and I can show you pages and pages and pages of legislative violations of the treaty. And so now Maori are still asking for a partnership.
With the incoming of this other civilization, okay, they brought with it their way of doing things. They've also the biggest if there is an injustice, it's in the fact that numbers were used against us, and it's numbers that have been continually used against us.
Right.
That is, in this day and age, they say 50% of the population. They say we were trying to be very good to you by giving you Maori seats of representation.
Right.
In the reality, and those seats were 4 seats. In the reality, according to our interpretation of what we signed in documentation, actually we should have got 50% of all electoral seats. Now, your statement, taking into consideration your statement, you do not want to create, fix up an injustice by replacing it with another injustice.
Another injustice.
Right. So that then naturally leaves a question to us that because we want a 50% say, and it means that you have then been taken from your, say, 80% or 85% position back to a 50% position. Is that an injustice? When, in the reality, we have not yet realised our 50% rights. You see? Yes. Now, yes, persons will be affected because you say, well, we've got more people on our side of the 50% than you have on your 50%, and then that is used as a validation to say that is an injustice. When
but
in
really,
reality,
the injustice was that your numbers got up that high in the first place.
And
it's an intelligent point. May I speak to that?
Yes.
That's an
please.
excellent point that you've raised. Okay. And in fact, I would take your earlier answer as a way of possibly addressing it. You talked about topic by topic, voting topic by topic.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I believe that to do justice, we have to forget who we are and where we come from in order to be blind to the biases and protect the rights of all people. So if I see an injustice being perpetrated against a Maori person, I become Maori in that moment and for that cause, and vice versa. And it's a little complicated, but I become
I'm understanding where you're coming from, yes.
I can't change this. I can only change this. So I have to become blind to all biases and address issues as a human and say there's a fundamental human injustice being perpetrated, and I don't care if that person was green, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or black or
Absolutely.
yellow or red or what. It's a fundamental human injustice. They've been robbed. Okay. Now, if you've been robbed, I'm not going to say, well, your being robbed is more important or less important than anyone else being robbed.
Absolutely.
Numbers have nothing to do with it. Robbery is robbery. Yeah.
But when you're using numbers to validate
That's
the
an
robbery,
injustice.
that might be an injustice.
Yes.
But if the numbers agree with themselves
Right.
and they are the majority,
If one, if 100 people are stealing and one person stands up to say it's wrong, then the numbers don't matter at all. 100 to 1.
all right then.
You
I
see,
accept
you
that,
can't
yeah.
do justice on the basis of numbers, but also numbers do become a means of perpetrating injustice.
Right.
What I believe is that we must all answer as humans for all human injustice. If I would hope that if you saw me being treated unjustly, you would race to my defense,
Absolutely.
right, as quickly as if it was your own fault now.
Absolutely.
And that's what I would do for you, and vice versa,
Absolutely.
on the basis of our common humanity.
Absolutely.
Because I believe that it's virtually impossible to untangle the injustices of history, especially where more injustices are required to be perpetrated, however it occurs.
Okay.
How is giving Māori a 50% say an injustice?
is the real
it depends.
question.
Okay.
How is that an injustice?
Okay. Because he said it earlier, the right answer is on the basis of topic by topic. Because we judge on the topic. So in one topic it might be, and in another topic it might not be. It's on the situation itself and how the decision on the topic serves humanity and all humans. I can no more vote for an injustice than I can change the color of my skin or anything. I can't allow, no matter whether I have a majority or I'm in the minority, I can't allow myself to be the perpetrator of an injustice or the victim of an injustice.
Absolutely.
As a human.
Okay.
So we all have equal human dignity. We just come from different places.
Okay.
That's my position.
And that's okay. The problem is, I see no problem with what you've just said. I see a problem with the reality globally. Now, it is said in the historical writings that New Zealand was an experiment in a new way of setting about achieving a cooperation, a communication, and a living arrangement with each other. So the treaty at the time was a whole new form of law that was being tested. That is, England went to America. It got up little treaties with different tribes across different areas, but it never actually had a document of treaty that covered and considered all the tangata whenua of America at that time, so that they were all equally covered. That is, through the treaty process, you could have a treaty with this tribe, go and have a different treaty with this tribe, and then deal with those treaties in that way. Right. So, nevertheless, that thing is called law of treaty. Now, in this nation, the experiment changed in that the treaty now covered the whole of the nation, and so a whole people, notwithstanding that they might be from different tribes, were affected equally by this single document. Equally. Now, when the push really comes to the shove, you can go into the internals of the treatment of that document being equal application across all hapu, and then you come into the hapu and then they turn around and say, yeah, but I'm a bigger hapu than that one, and yet I'm treated exactly the same as that one, when actually I should be treated in this way because of my sheer size. And so again, even within tangata whenua, it's still a numbers game, you see?
Yeah.
Now, this document nevertheless still covers a whole people across a whole nation, and it also deals with a whole people coming in across the nation as well. Okay?
I have an idea. May I interrupt for a moment?
Yes,
I have an idea. Okay. In America, after the American Revolution, they had a very weak government which did not work very well, which is kind of like the government we have here, and had the problems with Indian rights and all these other things, slavery. It was very complex. After about, I can't remember the details, but after a few years, they set that aside and they made a new government, which is essentially the government that we have now, which is about 220 something years old.
Yeah.
When they wanted to make equal representation in Congress, there were some people said, hey, wait a minute. The state of New York is much bigger than the state of Georgia, right? It's not fair. We will get wiped out, and the state of New York will always be able to overrule us.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Does that sound familiar?
That's a numbers game.
That's a
Does it
numbers
sound
game.
familiar?
Okay. So the founding fathers of the United States were actually quite wise. They took many months to figure this out. But what they did was they created the House of Representatives, which was about equal basis. They created another body, the idea of another group, called the Senate.
Okay.
And the Senate was not based on numbers in population, it was based on purely equal representation for groups. So each new state had 2 representatives, and all states had 2 representatives.
Yep.
Now, one side, the population-based group, could propose a new law, and they could vote all they like, but it could not be accepted until the exactly equal group representation, the Senate, approved it. And the Senate could come up with an idea and make a proposal, but they couldn't approve it by themselves. It had to be voted based on the population group.
Okay.
Now that solved both problems. One was based on population, and the other was based on equality. Pure representation, like you're talking about, equal.
Because at the end of the line, you can have your little interest groups, you can minorities, whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
But at the end of the line, you also need a central administrative facility whereby all the groups can be accommodated, so that we do then end up coming out with the general applicable facility that will then serve all our needs, notwithstanding that it doesn't serve exactly everything that I wanted. but it's workable enough to allow me to have a bit of ease in regard to now having to adopt it.
I think that was a bit of like the kōrero this morning about the two whares.
That's right. That's what I'm actually wanting to have this conversation, so we can work it out. What if we had... See, what we have now is the General Assembly, which is based on one person, one vote.
Absolutely.
Okay, which is not a bad idea. That's pretty good.
There's pretty faces too.
But we have the problem that there's not enough Maori here, and some people, including myself, are afraid that you might get rolled. And then you might get upset, and then back and forth we go. And we don't want that. Okay. What if we had a Senate?
I think so.
Comprised of Maori and Pākehā in equal numbers, equal votes, 50-50. And that's the Senate. And that's the wise elders, which is generally how it's supposed to work in America. Yeah, the elders are generally elected to the Senate because they're fewer and we need wiser heads. What that has an interesting effect of doing is that it prevents the popular group, the GA, from just steamrolling things through. And the cooler heads and the elders can take time and consider, and they can prevent the panics and the unwise things.
And so you see, this is this discussion.
Would that work? Could we do something like that? Have two groups, a Senate of wise elders and 50-50 Maori and Pākehā, and the General Assembly.
What do you... Oh, sorry.
What do you think?
Well, it actually depends. They might not think the same way as the majority. People that they are representing. The Senate. They might see differently. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. That's why the Maori would need to keep a close eye on their senators. And you, because nobody can be responsible for your representatives, you must be responsible for them, that they represent your views.
As long as we're representing the views of the people that we're supposed to be representing.
Exactly. And if
because there's a 1% in Maori too. I mean,
absolutely.
You know, I mean, you guys have your 1%ers too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you can see that.
That is a natural consequence of being human.
Yes, exactly.
That is.
It's a human
that is. You could have two persons come along like this. I'll give you 50 cents, and I'll give you 50 cents.
And these are the ones signing off all the settlements.
And then the bright ones go, I'll take it down to the shop and we'll spend the same amount of money out of our 50 cents. And you go, yeah, and then get to the shop. Damn, I lost my 50 cents. I must have left it at home. I'll tell you what, I'll pay back later. You give me. And so that is a natural consequence of human nature as well, is that we might start off with 50%, but somebody is definitely going to end up with 100% if you let it get away with it.
Precisely.
Right.
That's right.
So I wouldn't mind, if you don't mind, I want to explain a little thing. We also, with our structure, we wanted to create a structure.
Yeah.
What you was talking about is absolutely correct.
Does that make sense?
If you take two persons from each different race within
it could be
this,
5 or more.
Well, let's put it this way: there's potentially 170 nations in the world. We have got a very good representation of many of those 170 nations present as citizens within this nation.
Yes.
All right, these citizens have come into this nation. I go to a Chinese person, or I go to an Indian person, or I go to an African person, and I say, you're a British subject. I've never had anything to do with England, don't you call me British subject. What? But
You
then
get the same reaction from calling them a paga too.
or by calling them a paga. But the point is that I say, well, hold it. We don't have a contract with you to recognise you distinctly as the individual you claim to be, and that you are present here because of the British subject anyway, and under that condition you come under the auspices of the British subject whether you like it or not. But we have also this other thing. There is a transition phase that we all go through. If I went into another nation, I just take up residence, say in Australia, like all my whananga over there at the moment, and then
Become the coloniser.
and then I become the invader upon the tangata whenua there, and in concert and assistance with other persons whom are also invaders, we collectively become the invader of the tangata whenua in that nation.
You see the problem.
Well,
It can work both ways.
This problem is not unique to this nation.
It's a human problem.
It's a human problem globally, based on the fact that you have persons who want to move around wherever they wish to go. If persons try to stop them, unless of course they actually shoot them, then they retain the right from whatever society that they've left to object or accept. You know what I mean? So that is, you can say something like, well, the Chinese have been so well controlled lately that they must be a very good controlled nation, and so if they go into your nation they will restrain themselves because of their self-control and the blah blah blah. You get something like that, and so and then this is where our little racial differences come from, because first of all we point back to where the person came from, and then we're now behaving with them. What doesn't exist is this facility whereby we can allow that persons are transitioning into the psyche of the nation, having arrived there. We say this thing, that when you go to another nation, it is going to take you 3 nations or 3 generations to assimilate into that nation, because you've just come from the mother country. You hold the mother country view, and nobody's going to wipe you out. That is, in this nation presently, we have persons who hold passports that represent them in 2 different nations: the mother nation and the nation of adoption.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, and persons who have been here 40 and 50 years who retain their accent from their nation, and so the question left to us is, why did you come over if you've decided that you weren't going to adopt the psyche or the reality of the nation that you've just moved into?
Because it's very difficult. I can tell you from personal experience, it's extremely difficult.
And the first generation
That's
that
right.
has moved. Right, now in the second generation that's moved, I've now taken up residence in that nation. I've had children, and these children don't have the same like of my nation as me, because they aren't directly from the mother nation. We're in this nation now, and we'll do things this way because that's where we are. Notwithstanding the fact that we might be Chinese or Indian or Taiwanese or whatever, you see? And so, but at least there's this transition phase in the second generation that's going there. By the time that one has children, by the time the third generation is coming on, then we're saying that there can be no real reason that you have held within you the respect or the loyalty to your mother nation, because for 2 generations at least now you belong here.
Yes.
And so we have decided that for the future of this nation, you're all being informed about this, that having stayed here 3 generations, we will expect you to become absolutely loyal to this nation.
Fair enough.
Right to this point where you are now divested of any religious loyalty you had to your mother nation, of any physical, financial loyalty you had to your own nation. There is no reason for a third generation to be sending money back home to its family.
I would agree with that.
Because
Yeah.
it should have assimilated by its third nation into this nation.
Yeah.
And when then we say this thing, if you have not assimilated into this nation after 3 generations, then we invite you to go back home.
Yeah, I see that, and I accept that that is an issue. In particular, I've seen that a lot, as it's a real problem in Australia. But coming back to how we are addressing the problems of inequality in our assembly,
Okay.
because that's a practical problem we are here to deal with as a
Okay,
group.
yes, right,
Yeah.
now, yeah, okay,
This is where I'm coming from.
right.
We definitely want to make sure that the ideals of equality, which most Western people come with, are respected while at the same time making sure we don't barrel over Maori rights, and the rights of minorities are respected.
You know what the problem with Maori rights are?
What's
In the
that?
reality is
They got
actually
none.
tangata whenua do not know what their rights are.
Right. Well, here you have rights. Here in this place, you have rights, and we are talking.
No, but you see, the rights that are said to exist are still artificial in their own rights.
Because Maori have never written a law yet.
And so they are artificially created rights that are utilised to placate the coexistence of this group so that we can all get on with each other, blah, blah, blah. What?
Well, that's an important human.
We look at this education. Look at this education point that was made this morning. As I say, Maori themselves do not know what rights they own because they have not necessarily experienced rights that they themselves have not defined as existing as regard to themselves. That is, I'm allowed to call myself a land owner because I own land, but I have no control over the administration of my own land because somebody has dictated the term as to how
Right.
I'm allowed to own my own land.
Okay,
You
well,
see?
if you don't control it, you don't own it. That's the reality. That's the practical
No,
reality.
that's a statement that is made,
Yeah.
and I can back up such a statement
Yeah.
with paper
Yes.
or
Well,
documentation that actually validates and proves your statement.
yes. Can I tell you that there are most of the people who hold mortgages on houses and who pay back banks imagine themselves as homeowners, but are in fact not homeowners.
Not until
and
the
that
last
has
dollar's
been
been paid on
demonstrated
their
quite
house.
dramatically in the United States, and will perhaps one day be demonstrated very dramatically here. It's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
If you don't control it, if someone else can dispose of it, then you don't control it. And if you don't control it, you don't own it.
You don't own it, apparently.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Now, I just.
So what we have here, that's my cousin. You're a cousin? Well, so what we have here is we have persons slowly, carefully, cautiously working and walking with these things perceived as rights. Okay, I heard the speech yesterday. It was a very good speech. We do not want to insult persons. We do not want to make any racist statement, sexist statement, things like that. Now, whilst I might agree with absolute, and I do agree with the sentiment, I need to understand, that is, if I as a tangata whenua perceive myself as experiencing a racial act upon me,
Which is unacceptable.
but only if I understand it to be racist. If I'm naturally forever experiencing this type of behavior, then I might consider it to be maybe an administrative fault. I might not be able to get right to the fact of it actually being racist, both in intent and application. I might not know that because I've just naturally been experiencing all these things anyway. So if somebody then says to me that actually you're experiencing a racial imposition, then if I then say to that person, well, can you explain to me how I'm experiencing this racial imposition? Then that person might be in a position to say to me, well, you're Maori, you're doing this, and this is happening to you, and that's because you're a Maori. And then I've got to accept it, and then I've got to come to an agreement.
If it's true.
If it's true. But then, from it also then, I have now just been taught racism, haven't I?
Yes,
And so when I'm hearing these things say we do not want this sexist, racist behaviour to be imposed against us, well then I can only know that it exists and that I'm guilty. The fence up, and we want to clear all this, and then so that the families can come in and enjoy themselves, and so you should move back. And then we had a big GA, and then we go, no, we will not be moved. And then we make statements like, we will not move 1 inch. I'm in a position to now look at this and say, we're going to stop the fences. No, we were never going to stop the fences from being picked up. Merely that the fences weren't going to be used to push us back over these ways.
Precisely.
Right?
That's right.
But at the end of the line, have we lost anything by having the fence actually put up here right now? And I don't know whether I'm out of line talking in this way or not.
No, you're right. We have not. It's actually improved. It's an improvement because if there are large crowds, we feel safer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so at the end of it all, I have got to, there's got to be something that overrides my view as a tangata whenua, because I'm impacted by it equally with you. If I'm in here and I'm in danger from this big crowd,
yes,
I want to know, and you can't guarantee me my protection because we collectively are just a small bunch.
Yes.
Then I want to know that by this immediate threat of effect, that we will then be collectively protected for the purposes of protecting the collective.
That's it.
And you see what I mean?
I do, because we're all humans together when the crowd pours over the fence.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to talk about the...
Sorry?
We're talking about mortgages. My sister's mortgages went up. So my brother and I, we got together and we put the question to the mortgage company.
Right.
Not to avert paying the mortgage or the rent, just wanting to ascertain as to whether you're the correct payment authority. They couldn't prove it. So we say to them, show us your credentials.
Right.
And they couldn't show us because they had no title.
No.
And that's what I'm hearing this. If you understand, if you follow us, if they've got no title to the land, then who are they to charge you mortgages?
That's right. That's right.
See,
in the U.S., people are doing that. In the United States, people are doing that. They're challenging the authority of the people who are trying to evict them on the basis of the failure to establish a proper agreement.
Well, we showed them the agreement, and they just stood back and said, okay, you own the land. This is becoming news to them.
Right.
This is after lying to us, giving us all these forms of documents to say that they were, and we said no, you haven't answered the question, and they hadn't. They'd sent us somewhere else with it, but when we gathered enough information on them, we added what we had. As that's the title that we were asking for that you don't have.
Right.
And so they said, okay, you can have your land back. We'll take the house. Hang on.
Yeah.
In your law, it says any building permanently affixed to the land is now a part of the land. See, and that's how we won our sister's.
That's excellent.
But we weren't doing it for her. We were wanting a collective people to come together and do it all together.
Yeah.
The only way to do it is collectively.
Right. Well, what we're trying to decide here is how we're going to run our processes here, because what we're doing is we're conducting a grand experiment.
Yes.
This is we're starting from scratch, trying to redo it so that it's being done right, and so that we can express democratically our views and opinions, and we can get political work done.
Yeah.
We can battle for the next 100 years trying to change the MMP system and the this and that, but it's too big and it's too hard, right? Let's start fresh here. Let's learn how to do it here. We can change things here. If today we mess up, tomorrow we can fix it. So the reason I'm consulting with you is out of respect, and because I want to ensure the principles of human equality, but at the same time making sure that Maori interests are protected and preserved. But no one's interest should be more important than anyone else's in the entirety of the system.
I agree with that statement.
And to prevent abuses.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Whether from us or from the Californians coming in and trying to roll us or anything like that, we need to sit down and work out a practical system. And if it requires a modification to the way we conduct the GA, fine. If it requires the creation of a separate group over here called the Senate, or whatever we want to call it, to ensure proportional, correct representation for different groups, we can do it.
Yes.
But we are the ones who decide. We work up the proposal. What do you think of these ideas?
I think they're okay. It's just I try and work with this thing. Everybody's got a whole different way of thinking. They've all got their own individual ways of thinking. Mm-hmm. Those ways should remain intact. Everybody's got their own form of thinking. They think however they want. Yes, you can make the request that we do not go through this type of behaviour, sexist, racist, whatever.
Right.
Potentially, we might be able to sit at a table somewhere where we can learn what those things really mean anyway.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And which is education. That's the education bit. But at the end of the line, we are all here. We are the collective. This collective is made up of many different minds, where they are races, where they are interests, and then this is a very good place to bring all these things together so that they do eventually move in a direction. I also think patience is required. Oh, okay.
We've been given a call for the GA.
Oh, okay.
Really? Okay.
And I think a lot of patience is required too, you know what I mean? And just slowly, what it is that if there is an ill feeling, and it seems to me there's a slight ill feeling in regard to what is trying to be perceived as a separate movement from the rest. It doesn't exist in reality.
Okay.
Well, all you got to do is just have a bit of patience, take a little bit of time to slowly let us slowly. I know it's slow, but we've got a bit of time.
So,
we've been waiting how many years?
Yeah.
Over 100 years.
Are you saying you're happy with the process that we've been using up to this point?
Absolutely, I have no complaints with it whatsoever.
And we don't need to modify it, in your opinion?
No,
we can keep going.
I
where we're
agree. I
going?
disagree,
Okay.
but I'll leave that for the
GA.
Yeah.
But
But we were going to have another dialogue about this on Wednesday afternoon anyway.
That's specifically with tangata whenua stuff.
Yeah.
But in
that's
regard to the communion here,
The collective
and
GA.
you require patience in regard to everybody here, and slowly let them come out pace to each other. You have persons that maybe, and nobody's actually said it, but you have persons who might have felt that they've been pushed into a thing.
But they're getting used to it.
Well, it's not so much getting used to it, it's slowly allowing them to get used to it. If those persons who do feel forced, slowly allow them to divest themselves of the force that they feel, so that they can become associated with the collective. We are still moving towards associating more fully with each other, and before that can happen, really, we have quite clearly got to understand better each other. You know what I mean? And so
By coming together.
by coming together, and then because this, I've enjoyed actually the way that everybody's been meeting and those GAs. I have enjoyed them. You know what I mean? It's just you require a bit of patience. If we were more pressed, then the force of the patience and its assimilation is quite clearly increased. As it stands at the moment, we are not so heavily oppressed, and so we can just relax, you know what I mean? And just slowly relax it that way. Is that a way of doing it?
That's good. Very good. I like that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
Are you basically feeling that you haven't got freedom of speech? Is that a problem?
Let's put it this way. If I feel like speaking, there is nobody in the whole world that will ever be able to stop me. In the whole world. All right?
Okay. One other question. How do you feel that this particular form of demonstration for 8 weeks, I believe, is going to help your cause? Our cause. Yes, your movement. That's what it is.
Believe it or
In
not.
fact, it's even almost a phenomenon now. It's big. You can't stop it now. It's not a protest. It's around the world. It's no longer a protest. It's the growth of a new awareness. It's a phenomenon, and get used to it because it's here to stay. It's not going away.
It's not only that, to answer your question, we can get to know each other's concerns. This is a very good way. This is a global means whereby we each can get to know each other's concerns.
You don't understand each other.
And so that's a good way. And there are going to be great things coming out from the eventual global collective and the eventual review of
I was on a protest 2 weeks ago and there were 15 different issues.
Yeah.
So plenty to talk about.
Plenty to talk about. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Linda, for your calling me out like that.
My pleasure. I'm honored.
Yeah, I'm honored to.
Good.
Interesting to hear you have to say too, Linda. I really hear some great ideas. I really am enjoying the free flow of ideas around here. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
Everyone's got so much that they're bringing to the table. It's just really neat. Yeah, it's great.
To be honest, I just want to learn. I've just come here to learn, really, and there's so many knowledgeable people. Like you, Chris, we've got guys coming down that have been in the media for 28 years to support us.
Yeah.
Guys, they're all coming down and they're all sharing knowledge. So we've really got to. I'm here to suck it up, man, and I'm gonna feed it back to a whole new generation all over again.
There's a whole new era of enlightenment coming. It is. You can just feel it.
We're probably the only group, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but I really feel that we are, as you said, gradually becoming more and more united, getting to know each other better, separating out the divisions, refusing to be labeled, refusing to be pigeonholed and identified, so that we can think as humans, work together. We all have special issues, there's no question about it. These can't be ignored, but we deal with them as humans and as elders and as people who can think beyond politics as it's practiced in the beehive.
Feeling human beings.
Yeah, thinking, feeling human beings. I love that. Yeah.
Say they drop everything and go, okay, you win.
Yeah.
What are you going to do then?
That's not going to happen.
Absolutely true.
We're going to continue the way we began.
Yes.
United.
Yeah.
United and taking a deep interest in undoing the injustices that have been done, not by correcting them with more injustices, but by becoming the humans we were always meant to be.
Yes. Yeah, what I meant by that was, if that happened, now would be a good time to start putting a structure together.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what I heard today. So it's starting to swing around.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you can focus on that, so that if it happens, should it happen, you're ready for it. You're ready for it.
Be a part of it.
Yeah. We'll join a work group. That's what the work groups are. The work groups are going to evolve into the structures we ultimately need to practice this form of democracy. Yeah.
I will take my leave from you now.
Oh, you're not staying with us?
Yeah, no, but I've got to go here.
Okay, then.